Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all having a great day, as this is another beautiful day in Arizona. Well, actually, it's getting a little hot. It's about 8:30 in the morning, and it's 90-something degrees out. So I am happy to be home. I have been gone for the past month. I've been in Oceanside, California, camping at Paradise by the Sea RV Park. If you saw my video with the camper loaded up with bikes, we are back. There it is. I've got the bikes off, and I am getting ready to load it back up because we are going to Greer, camping at Big Lake. So that is not why you're here. You are here because we have got our new shocks in, and I am going to do an unboxing, and I am going to tell you why I bought the shocks I bought. So let's do that first real quick. So it really broke down to 3 shocks. The first one was the factory Fox shocks. The second one was the 814 UTV Viking shocks, and the third one was the Bandit UTV shocks. So the Bandit shocks are brand new to the Pioneer market, but they've been out. They're really big with the Terex guys. So let's look at the Fox shocks. My budget, just so you know, was between $1,400 and $1,500. I've been saving for a few months. I've been talking about this for a while. So the Fox shocks are factory. I don't have to modify anything on the Pioneer if it was stock. 3 settings: soft, medium, hard. You know, hundreds of thousands of dollars spent by Honda and Fox to set them up for this application. Reservoir, front and rear, really like them. Well, it was option 1. Option 2 was the Viking 814 shocks. Originally started for the Terexes, and now it's their big business is the Pioneers, small shop in PA, and then the third one was the Bandit UTV shocks. It just came out. Now those were nitrogen-filled shocks, by the way. So long story of looking at them all, I ended up going with the, if you can see it in the box over here, the Viking 814 shocks. So let me tell you why I went with the Viking shocks. So I went with the Viking shocks for a couple of reasons, and we're gonna do an unboxing here in a second. No matter what shock I went with, because I run a goofy lift on mine, and let me show you that. I have the high lifter lift back there, which you can see, and then up front, I'm running the spacer lift right there. So no matter what shocks I went with, I had to modify my Pioneer. If I went with the Fox shocks, I was gonna have to put the high lifter bracket lift on the front. If I went with the Bandit shocks, the same thing. And if I went with the 814 shocks, I had to take the high lifter lift off the back. Another reason I went with the 814 shocks was the customer service. I'm not saying Bandit wasn't good customer service when I called them, but Craig, the owner of 814, and you'll see this all over the forums, all over Facebook, did a really good job explaining to me the shocks, why he does what he does, and how they work, and if it's the right setup, because he wasn't real pushy in sales. But I liked the limit straps. Now I know there's gonna be haters out there and people who don't want limit straps on a UTV because I don't use it for what it's, you know, whatever, I don't care. Here's the reason I like the limit straps. I like the limit straps because if you remember when I put my A-arms on, without the shock, the axles would bind at full droop. And now with the Rhino axles on the front, I got more play, more down travel without it binding, but the only way to keep it from binding was hooking the shock up. So by having the limit straps, when you drop that front tire into a hole real hard, or you pop it up in the air, or the back tire, those limit straps are gonna stop the shock from overextending. And basically, I'm using the stock shocks right now as the stops for the axles. And over time, it's going to ruin the shock. Now, I'm not concerned with these stock shocks because they're pretty shot as it is. The ride kind of sucks. That was great in the beginning, but anywho. And the third reason I went with the Viking shocks was small business. I've told you guys in many videos before, I support small business. I'll spend some more money if I need to for small business. I prefer local, but small business is small business, and Craig is a small business owner. He took the time to talk to me, so I really like that. And the interesting part is his was cheaper than the factory Fox shocks. Now all three of these shocks I'm talking about all have adjustability. The 814s have rebound and compression adjustability. Basically, I'm going to figure out the setting I like, and the owner will help you. Craig, you call him, he'll help you get it set. So I explained it to me once, and I'm going to forget it. I want the Cadillac ride. So let's go ahead, let's get to the unboxing and see what this stuff looks like. Okay, so I've already opened this when I got it. You actually get 2 packages when you order these. So the first package is your limit straps. So we got some stickers. We'll put those on the roof later. We got instructions, some extra washers, and then your bolts. Now on these instructions, they're just on how to set up your limit straps. These have nothing to do with the shocks. They actually send you a video on how to build your shocks. If you look down here, it'll tell you the difference on the strap length and then how it should be installed. So let's go ahead and get this box cut open, because I just got this today, and see what's in it. So a nice feature is we have the wrenches that come with these. You don't have to buy them like you do with the Fox shocks. I don't know about the Bandit. So these must be bodies. So if you look at the end of the box, it's got 12 DP 400. And if I'm not mistaken, that's the spring rate. So let's open those. Okay. Wow. So there is the new springs, and look, they actually have a spring rate put on top of it. Cool. So you have your bushing kit with your snap rings. Now you do have to assemble these. You got your locking collar, your a bushing or a spacer, and the pieces that screw on to adjust your spring. So there we go. Look at that. So one thing you gotta do when you're gonna do this is you need to actually, we'll end up putting some WD-40 on here. We need to pop this rubber piece down before we assemble them. So here's what we're gonna do to install these. These are your inserts right here. You have your snap rings, and then these are your bushings, which will go onto the bolts. So we're gonna go ahead and set these aside because we're not gonna use these right now. And what we need to do is, if you look, let's see if the camera can see that, there's a couple grooves in there. So this will end up just sliding in there. And you put your snap rings in. So I'm gonna go ahead, put the first snap ring in. Let's see if I can do this. Got my snap ring pliers. The first one in is pretty easy. We'll put it on both sides. Key is to make sure you get it, the seat in the groove all the way around. So if you can see in there in the camera, they're both seated. The next one's a little bit more difficult. So you just gotta kind of wiggle this in there. and there's not a lot of play on these. So you have to line it up just straight. There we go. Take your snap ring pliers, put the second one in. So this one is where you need to get a small screwdriver, kind of seated there. This, you hear it snap, and now it's seated. I'll do this side. This one. There we go. Kind of tell they're not in there. So when you go to install these bushings will slide in here, and then your bolts. Don't forget, you'll end up putting this together. So I am not going to fully assemble the springs, and let me show you why. So when installing these shocks, you do have to modify your A-arms just a little bit. If you're running a stock A-arm, you have to modify it more than the Super ATV arm, and let me show you what I'm talking about. So on this shock, you got your adjustments, your rebound and compression adjusters. Normally, when you install a shock, those are going to be at the top. But because the way Honda does everything, you have to put it like this. But the way they make their mounts, this area right here, sometimes you have to grind it down a little bit. There's a couple ways you can do that. You can use like a flapper wheel or a grinder or a Dremel. I'll end up using a flapper wheel. It's kind of hit or miss if you need to do it. So right there on both sides, you'll grind just the inside. So what I'll do before I end up installing the spring on here is I will get the shock put on. I'll just slide the bolts through, and I will cycle the suspension completely up and completely down without the limiting strap. And that will tell me if I need to grind any of this off. I may or may not need to. It just depends. Every machine's different, and every A-arm is different. So if you're running the factory A-arms, absolutely you have to. If you are Super ATV arms, CFab, or some other brands out there, it's hit or miss. So we'll do that in the next video. I'm gonna finish assembling these shocks right here. So don't forget to give me a big thumbs up if you like the video. Don't forget to subscribe, and until next time. For those of you wondering what snap ring pliers I'm using, I am currently using the Mako tool set right there, and there's your part number, SMS TP6.